So this song, based on the changes to Just Friends, is unique in that it starts on the 4 of the key. So we're going to play this in G major. That's the key it's usually played in. And it's starting on the 4 chord, C major 7. So we're getting right to work by dropping in a minor pentatonic substitution concept. In this case, in the first 2 bars, we're going to be using E minor as our template to create a melodic movement here. So again, it's really nice. We're just playing E minor ideas, E minor 7, E minor pentatonic, and they all sound really great over that C major 7 chord. And then from there, we kind of morph right into a C minor pentatonic scale, and we move back up the neck, and we connect directly into the G major 7 chord using a B minor pentatonic scale. That's one of our substitutions that we talked about earlier. And that B minor is really nice because it's just a half step away from C minor. So you're in this world of C minor pentatonic. And then it's really nice because just by going down a half step, that creates a very, very unified connection, and so it puts together these two kind of unexpected chord sounds from C minor to then G major, you know. But by playing your pentatonic scales just a half step apart, it can really, you know, hold those together in a solid way. And we can continue that thinking when we move to another seemingly unrelated move from G major up to B flat minor. And we can just simply shift our pentatonic scale down another half step to B flat minor and use some B flat minor ideas. And as we saw in the last etude over fall foliage, we can connect those further by doing some sort of a motivic development and repetition. So we see this riff in measure 5 over the G major 7. And then over the B flat minor 7. So we're basically repeating that. And that's a very powerful effect that you can use in your improvising, this idea of direct repetition, you know, direct replication of an idea, and also, of course, elaborating on the idea and coming up with variations. In a physical sense, it's very easy to do that using these minor pentatonic shapes because they're all right there. So it's very easy to connect a melodic idea with this physical shape that you've been practicing. You know, it's all right there. If I know that I want to do this melody, it's very easy to replicate that up or down a half step or anywhere in the neck. I can hear it, but I can also feel it. So it's great because it extricates you from the challenge of trying to come up with a fingering. And I think when you're improvising on guitar, that's one of the biggest challenges that we all face is, compared to, say, maybe a piano player, where there's only one way to play that one particular pitch, right? If you want to play this, that C, it's only going to appear in one place on the keyboard. So I think that they have an advantage in that regard in terms of, you know, replicating ideas and you know, putting them in different, and to some extent, moving them around. You know, there's so many different possible ways of fingering one idea on the guitar that makes it difficult. So why not make it easier on yourself by just keeping the fingering intact? And that's easy to do just by shifting up a half step or down a half step. So that's something to keep in mind there. After that initial change from B flat to E flat, then we go down another half step and resolve the same kind of motive, a little variation on it. And it's basically this theme that we've been using the past few bars, but now we've taken it down to A minor, which is pretty smooth because it's only a half step below B flat, so we've just been gradually working our way down. And that will take us through the D7. And then we have another move, B minor 7 to E minor 7, and there, just to mix things up a little bit, I've just chosen a different minor pentatonic scale, in this case F sharp. But you could use anything you want. Okay, then we get to measure 13, this A7. And that's just sort of a temporary stop in our progression there. It's the 5 of 5. but most people will treat that with a Lydian dominant sharp 11 kind of sound. So that's what I've done here, and this is also an example of like, okay, we've been using all of these pentatonics which create one particular sound. Let's mix that sound with a more traditional bebop type of sound. So we have here. You can use a lot of that bebop vocabulary, and when that's used in tandem with all these pentatonic ideas, then your solos sound really interesting because they don't sound like one particular genre or one particular historic period. So it's nice to mix and match those ideas. As we move ahead to bar 17, we're now superimposing E minor pentatonic again over C major 7. We have this nice kind of arpeggio that moves up in triplets. And then we can kind of replicate that idea over the C minor 7. And then that resolves again to B minor over the G major 7 chord. Now, one thing that's I think interesting to observe here in measures 21 and 22, we're using the B minor pentatonic scale as our palette, and we're even using this very familiar position. So in an effort to avoid falling into just playing that particular sequence of notes all the time, you can still stay in that position and use that pattern, but just mix up the intervals a little bit. So those exercises at the beginning of this course will help you do that. But notice what's happening here melodically. We have this, and then we just do kind of an uncommon move through this pentatonic shape, which is... And it's nice. It has this nice, fourths and seconds sound that we all know and love from, Herbie Hancock and Chick Corea's piano playing and McCoy Tyner. So it sounds modern in that sense. Saxophonists love using fourths and seconds. So that's just something to keep in mind, rather than just kind of burning through the pentatonic shape that you know and love. Mix it up a little bit, skip around a little bit. Could be kind of random intervals like that with larger leaps, or maybe just kind of an intervallic concept such as fourths. And that's a really nice way to add some fresh air to this very common minor pentatonic pattern. Okay, so moving forward from that, we see a lot of rhythmic development and rhythmic repetition, starting with the B flat minor 7 to E flat 7. We have this idea of... So even arpeggio ideas can be moved up or down chromatically that coincide with these pentatonic ideas. So we continue that. And then looking ahead at measure 29, we're going to finish off this phrase with a bunch of different substitutions here. We're basically dropping in a different substitution for every chord. Beginning with the A minor 7, we have an E minor idea over that. And then over the D7, because it's a 5-chord resolving to the 1, we can make that altered. So we'll drop in the E flat Camoy. And then we can resolve up another half step again to E minor over G. But rather than staying there, we can kind of add another level of complexity to it by then shifting right to an F sharp minor pentatonic by including that C sharp all over the G. And that immediately turns it into a Lydian sound. And from there, we go to the D minor 7. We're going to use an A minor over that. That sound. And then when we go down a half step to D flat, we'll use the A flat Camoy. And that works really well over the D flat 7, and that can serve as a bridge to get us back to the next A section, which starts with the C major 7 in measure 33. what we've done here is we start off with this idea in E minor pentatonic, and then we use B minor pentatonic over C. And that's really nice because, again, it's just a half step away from C minor pentatonic, which shows up in measure 35 over the C. So you can create this nice melodic continuity, you know. Sometimes another frustration of playing over chord changes can be you feel like the new chord will interrupt your melodic flow or interrupt your idea because you're like, oh, I have to switch chords and switch modes and all that. So what's happening here in 33 and 34, you've got this line that's going, you've got... And then, so you have this template that you're working with, and then as the chord switches from C major to C minor, you don't have to worry about, like, you can continue your idea and just take it up one fret or one half step. And that's exactly, you know, the idea that's happening here. You've got this, if we're looking at measure 34, that's the idea. So if you imagined if we were staying in C major, you would continue that, you know. And we're continuing that idea, but we're just taking it up a half step, and that's really easy to do because you only have to move up one fret. So in context, it sounds like this from 34. So it's easy to thread these ideas. Your melodic ideas don't have to be interrupted because it's very easy to think B minor, oh, just go up a half step to C minor. So that's a really cool device that you can use that will serve you well. Moving on to the next page now, we're starting in measure 37. We're back to B minor over G, and this is a really great sound. I used it quite a bit. Also because it moves quite nicely and smoothly to the B flat minor over B flat minor 7 to E flat 7. And then we can take it down another half step on measure 41 over the A minor 7. So, you know, the progression to Just Friends is really great for this minor pentatonic substitution. Starting in measure 45, there's something happening here that is not related at all to pentatonic substitution, but it's a nice sound that you can use. It's basically, it's an idea that utilizes dominant diminished ideas and major triads in minor thirds. Really what's happening here is we're just taking this sound of A7 and we're playing triads in tritones. So in this example, we're playing E flat major triads. E flat is the tritone of A. And A major triads, and that's a really kind of nice sound that's very very common in contemporary jazz and in post-bop styles. So over this A chord, you have E flat, and that's a really cool sound, just using major triads and tritones. And then we continue that motive by now playing an A minor triad over the A minor 7 there. And then just moving that down to G major, and then F major will work over the D, and then continuing that sequence over the D flat major 7, or sorry, D flat 7. And then we'll finish it off starting in the next phrase. So rather than just abruptly stopping, you know, at the end of the D flat 7, it would sound unfinished. It's really nice to continue and finish your idea over the next section of the song. So if this is the end of one phrase and here's the beginning of another phrase, don't just stop your solo phrase here because the song does. Keep it going into the next part of the next phrase. And I think of it as like if you imagined runners passing off a baton, you know, you've got that split second there where the baton is changing from one runner to the next. And that's something that I think about as I'm moving into another A section or another chorus. It's just really great to think about, you know, this continuity. Charlie Christian was a master of that. If you listen to Charlie Christian's solos, they're very literary in the sense that they have incredible phrasing, incredible beginnings, and incredible endings. Sometimes soloists don't always think about how to end something. They've got great starts, but it's also important to finish it. So this is a way to cross that bridge into the next section. And then moving ahead to C minor 7 here, we're going to use some G minor pentatonic ideas. And then move to C minor. So there's a little bit of a kind of like a question and answer, a little resolution there. And then we're essentially duplicating that idea over the next 4 bars. G major 7, we're going to use that F sharp minor, and then move to B minor. And then we'll do the exact same thing over B flat minor 7 by using F minor to B flat minor. So there again is another example of how to create this really nice continuity over seemingly unrelated changes. You've got C minor to F7 to G major 7, B flat minor 7 to E flat 7. Those are kind of all unrelated chords, but not really. And you can really, unify them by using these pentatonic ideas a half step apart. Finally, the song ends off with some more repetition and motivic development. Getting into 61, we use another little Lydian dominant idea, just very quickly, but then we get right into an E minor pentatonic idea superimposed on A7 and A minor 7. And then we just, we kind of move downward by using E flat Chamois over D7, because we can make it D altered because it's resolving to G. And then we'll just resolve down a half step and play a D major idea over the G major 7.